Good morning, everyone. Happy January. What is it, the 18th?
The 18th.
Time just goes by so fast. I hope you all are having an amazing year. If you're in the boot camp, I just want to tell you, great job on this 90-day sprint. I feel like everyone went out of the gate and it's just been gangbusters. Shauna's team posted 250,000 points and getting tons of points through whiteboard topics, which really makes me excited. I started doing whiteboard topics in practice in 1998 and definitely found that those were game changers when it comes to relationship and retention. So if you're watching this and you're not doing whiteboard topics yet and you're in the boot camp, get after it. And if you're not in the boot camp, then you're going to want to go back and watch some of my Facebook Lives. I've done a lot of Facebook Lives and gone through whiteboard topics. This lady is no stranger to Facebook Lives with me. I think this is going on our 5th year of doing Facebook Lives, and Dr. Zeshi joined the boot camp as a student, and just to because I think that her success should be applauded even this many years later. Tell the story. You were still in school, and what happened?
I got to a point where I was getting ready to actually just look for an associate position when I was getting closer to graduating. And if any of you guys know me, you know that I don't like to work for other people and I don't like other people to tell me what to do. So my husband was like, well, if that's the direction you want to go, are you sure that's what you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. So I'm just going to go associate. He's like, no, you're not. You hate working for other people. And so I grew up where my dad owns his own business. So I grew up with small business, family business type stuff. And so I kind of always knew that that was the direction I wanted to go. I just didn't know the how. And I didn't think I had the resources to do it. And you always hear these horror stories about people opening their own practice and they shut their doors because they can't make it. And I didn't want to have a failure story or contribute to the failure stories because, after school, we have this amazing gift of being able to heal people. And I didn't want that to be me, where then I would, my dad owns a successful business and I didn't want to be the failure or whatever. And so it was time to find someone that has done this before and knew how to get me from point A to point B and do it very, very efficiently. And so that's when I reached out to you. And that was kind of the very first conversation we had. Clay was 8 months old, I think. 7 months old, 6 months old, 8 months old, somewhere around there. So I had a little baby. I was getting ready to graduate. My husband was an engineer and I didn't know what to do, how to do it. And so that's when I found Dr. Barb in the boot camp and it was a good fit for me. And I attribute and thank you for all my successes because it's been a wild ride, but awesome at the same time. So
yeah, so let's brag on that. So you opened and you're still open. There's a lot more to the story.
Yes.
But then let's talk about even the first 7 days of practice.
So I covered my overhead in my first week open. So my entire month overhead was taken care of, which that I think if you ever need a big boost when you open and you are profitable in 7 days, my rent was met, my everything was taken care of. I think that was probably one of the biggest, you can do this and you've done the work and you deserve this kind of success. And so I attribute a lot of my successes to just having the foundation laid where it was seamless to open. It wasn't, there's the little stresses that should go with it, but it wasn't anything crazy. I didn't feel overwhelmed. I didn't feel I had moments where I felt overwhelmed, but I know what you say about that. So, but I had everything I needed. The foundation was laid. And so opening was easy. And it was really nice to just be opened and be profitable and be able to take care of myself, my family, and get Alex out of working in the oil field.
And what a huge thing. So for those of you who are watching, the other part of the story is Dr. Zeshi and Clay, her son, were in Iowa and her husband Alex was in Colorado. So she's opening this brand new practice with a baby and kind of flying solo as he's working as an engineer in Colorado. So the reason I'm emphasizing all of that is a lot of times we can hear someone else's story and we start and for lack of better terms, we start making excuses for why we're where we are. Like, oh, well, she can do it because, she has a husband, or she can do it because of this, or she can do it because of that. Like, let's just focus on she can, you can, right? Like, if someone else can do it, we can too. We just have to figure out, okay, what are the steps that they took? And it's never one thing. So if you're looking for the magic bullet, it isn't one thing. But I will tell you now, almost we'll celebrate 5 years of the boot camp in April. The single biggest factor is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Across the board in the boot camp, it's what are your thoughts, because thinking creates our reality. And those who are also, another thing I witnessed Jesse do, and I decided to do this when I first opened my practice, was if I'm going to hire someone as my coach, I'm going to trust them. And it was never a battle of, are you sure this is going to work? Are you sure? She just like ran with it. And then once it was established, she made it her own. And we all do this as chiropractors. Like in school, we're taught like, this is how you adjust. And we're scored, whether it's getting into clinic or on national boards, of do we do it the way they taught us? Once you're in practice, like we kind of all make up our own technique. I mean, let's face it, right? Based on our body, based on how we practice, like our practice style, all of that. And it's really important in business to look at it the same way, that at first model and then customize and be creative. So your practice continues to grow. And then before long, you're paying off your student loans.
Yeah, student loans are paid off, which I paid them off in 2020. So that was right. 2020? Was it 2019 or 2020? 2020?
It was during the pandemic.
Yeah. I paid off my student loans in 2020. I paid off my business loan in 2019. And so that's like the best feeling ever, isn't it? Like I don't owe anybody any money. So that's been great. And yeah, so it's been great since then. We've grown. So I have an associate doctor working with me, which is awesome. I've got 2 massage therapists. I have a full-time front desk. We've got a physical therapist that rents space from us. And so when we move, she'll be moving over with us. Yeah. And it's been
incredible. And what would you say, like, when you mentor your associate and your team, what do you emphasize the most so that this kind of success can be repeated?
I would say it's a combination of a lot of things, but I do a lot of things that you did with me initially. Number one is we do a lot of mindset training, but we actually just sat down maybe 2 weeks ago at the beginning of the year, and we completely redefined our core values as a practice, because everything that I set up for core values was when it was just me solo. And so now I include my team in a lot of decisions that we make as a practice, where we're moving forward, what's working, what's not, because they all have a valuable insight as well. And so I do my best to make them included in as many things, because ultimately, even as the owner, but as their colleague, a lot of the decisions we make as a practice affects them too. And if you can keep your staff happy, if you can take, you know what I mean? It's all about taking care of my staff. So like I told you yesterday, I'm bringing my CA. She's going to chiropractic school this fall. So she's coming to the boot camp with us, which is awesome, or to the pediatric conference with us. So I'm really excited to have her come, and my associate doc might come. So I'm excited to potentially have him there too. But it's really looking at my staff and what do they need and how do they feel valued? How do they feel appreciated? And really playing into that and knowing what motivates them too. So we've had lots of conversations. Like, I know their favorite candy. I know their favorite, like all their favorite little things that it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but it does make a huge difference day to day.
Totally agree with you. And I love that at the PEDS boot camp, Dr. Sarah is going to be talking about leadership. And obviously we did a Facebook Live a week ago and everyone has loved that. And so I hope all of you are seeing, as your business grows, and that leadership isn't just like a nice thing. It's really important to develop your leadership skills, unless you want to have constant staff turnover and like be in that kind of a mess, which really and truly it is a mess. And I find so often that the reason individuals get into a bind when it comes to their team is they hire in desperation. And this idea that I just need somebody there, that's a terrible idea.
It's a horrible idea.
Yeah, a horrible idea. And so I invite you to come to the Peds boot camp, even if you're not like Jessie does not specialize in pediatrics at all. And yet she is speaking at the Peds boot camp because her topic is about pelvic floor. So let's jump in there, Jess. Like what are you noticing with pelvic floor as it relates to pregnancy and postpartum and even like chronic low back pain? I think it's really easy to just accept that people have chronic low back pain and, oh, I'll just keep adjusting them. And sometimes I think it's easy to almost accept like they're not going to get better. What are you noticing?
Yeah, so pelvic floor is kind of the one thing that you should be addressing even on your intake. We all ask this question when someone presents with low back pain. We ask the red flag questions, any loss of bowel or bladder, and they think that a loss of bladder is like a full void. Or people are like, oh, well, I've had kids, so, when I cough, I pee a little bit, or when I sneeze, I pee, it's fine. And I work with a lot of athletes too, so that's kind of my specialty, is more of like the sports med side of things. But when we work with, especially women, it's a question that I always ask is, any issues with pelvic floor dysfunction? And they're like, no. And I'm like, pain with intercourse? Do you have any dribbling when you sneeze, cough, whatever? Do you have dribbling when you jump or any of that kind of stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, but that's normal. I've had kids. Or I have an athlete, this actually just happened a few weeks ago. She's a swimmer. And she's like, well, yeah, but I thought it was just like, because I'm a swimmer, I'm always in the water. Like, honey, no. And so when you're looking at, we've got, I just did a post on this on our Facebook yesterday about low back pain. And we know that 80+% of people, specifically Americans, suffer with low back pain at some point in their life. And what happens when it's so common that we almost normalize it? And it's like, well, my low back's going to be achy for a while. Seriously? Like the fact, and also from a clinician standpoint, when I hear that patients have been told that their low back pain is common or normal, and it's like, when has pain ever been like a normal sensation for us? Like, when have we started normalizing pain? Like, we've normalized a lot of unhealthy behavior the last 2 years, but like, we've also normalized pain. Like, well, you have low back pain. Or my favorite is like, well, I have degenerative disc disease. And that's what patients come in and like owning this, and so my low back's never going to get better. And it's like wrong. But then you deal with the patients that are chronic low back pain, or, well, I've had a baby. And I can tell you guys from a clinical standpoint, Dr. Barb, I know you heard this years ago when you were in practice too, is that is like the weirdest excuse. Like, don't blame your back pain on your baby. Like,
yeah,
it's not normal. We can help you, and you don't have to live like this.
Right. Yeah, I just have the normal headaches.
Yes. Like, when has that been normal?
Right. And that takes all of us consistently showing up. And again, even if it's weekly, like low back pain is not normal. Headaches are not normal. And I love in the boot camp, there's so many I feel like chiropractic coaching groups, not I feel like I know, that really kind of like look down their nose at docs who help people with musculoskeletal problems. And I'm like, look, have any of you had musculoskeletal problems? Yes, you have. And it's really important that you get help, right? So I don't think that like chiropractors who specialize in helping individuals who are suffering on a daily basis are less than, or the like the bastard stepchild to those who are helping kids with autism or infertility or whatever else. Like, we're all necessary, and we can see what a scourge this is on society when we normalize headaches and low back pain and dysfunction and lack of range of motion and all of those things. And so I'm really excited to have you at the Peds boot camp. This is the second year. So Jessie spoke last year, and it was so helpful and really like did a lot of demonstration too. So you wouldn't have to try and figure it out in your mind. And one thing I love about how I've set the Peds boot camp up is during the weekend, just be there, whether you're virtually or you join us live, like for the experience, and really just like be present, because you get 60 days of the replay, right? So pay attention for sure over the weekend, knowing that over the next 60 days, you get to come back and watch again. Like, how did she do that? What did she say? What was this? And you can just like ease in and quiet your thinking to really learn, so that we can execute with accuracy what we learned over the weekend. So Jesse, what are you seeing with weak pelvic floor during pregnancy? Like, what are things that have been normalized during pregnancy and postpartum, when really it's a weak pelvic floor?
Right. So most commonly, the thing that we all know is that like dribbling when you sneeze, cough, whatever. People have always been like, well, I've had a baby, I've been pregnant, it'll get better when the baby's not pushing on my bladder or whatever. And then it usually doesn't resolve. And so that's one thing. That's like the number one thing that I see most commonly, which I've been very intentional about making sure I'm asking my patients what all is going on. Unresolved hip pain, unresolved low back pain. Those are probably the most common things that I see, or just like a general like achy, like hip achy. So belly button to hip, just kind of an ache that has been normalized. And so those are kind of the most common things that I see that we don't always think about, but it makes a huge difference. I also see dysfunctional breathing patterns, which I did cover last time at the boot camp. And so we'll kind of go over that again, because I think teaching people how to breathe appropriately, when you have people that are like, I mean, teaching diaphragmatic breathing is going to be huge as well. And when we see dysfunctional breathing patterns, because people are scared to engage certain muscles because they're like, well, I can't do that because I'm going to pee if I do. And so like hypertonicity in the adductors, which can actually lead to knee pain, labral tears, which is super common in birth, because what do we do when a woman's having a baby? We shove their knees right up by their head and just make them push. And so unresolved pain is kind of the most common thing that I see. But you really have to kind of poke and pry to figure out what else is going on. And you're really doing yourself and your patients a huge disservice by not addressing everything. Like, when have I ever, like, even in practice, if someone says, I have elbow pain, when have you never checked the entire like shoulder, neck down? Like, we all do. Why aren't we doing it with the pelvic floor and low back pain?
Because we don't know.
Because we don't know. But I'm going to help you guys, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And now you'll know.
And so, you know, our intake is just so important. That really sets the stage for how care is going to go. Absolutely. And you know, if you're watching this now and you don't know, that's okay. Like, it's okay, but don't stay in not knowing.
Right. And like I did last year too, is I will include questions to include on your intake, or even if it's not specifically on your intake, on your review of systems, when you're going through that with your patients, questions that you should be asking. That, I mean, if you talk to other women about, like, I would never go in and just be like, Dr. Barb, I pee my pants a little bit when I sneeze. Like, I would never just tell you that, because I would assume that you think that's normal. And I wouldn't even know that you can do something to help me. But how many of you guys have had in practice, when you're talking to a patient, you go over something and you're like, oh, do you want me to help you with that too? And they're like, wait, you can do something for my allergies? Yes, I can.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to help you guys be able to address your patient as a whole. And let me tell you, when you can address pelvic floor issues in patients, whether you fix them yourself or you refer them on, let me help you know when to make the referral, what you can tell them to do if they're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Because we all have patients that are like, there's absolutely no way, I'm not doing it. Okay, well, cool. Well, let's stop the acidic drinks. Let's stop this. Let's stop that. Watch your caffeine intake. Here's what you can do dietary, musculoskeletal. Here's what you can do. Let me help you.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. So meeting them where they are, helping them decrease potential triggers. Absolutely. And then maybe as that gets better, then they step into the pelvic floor rehab. But the important thing is that we know and can convey that to them. So Jesse, give your best, hey docs and students, join us.
Alrighty. Hey docs and students, join us for the pediatric boot camp. It's February 25th,
4th through the 26th.
4th through the 6th. I was like, I know I'm going to be there for a while. 24th through the 26th. I will tell you, if you have ever attended any event that Dr. Barb has put on, you're going to be blown away with so many people that part of the boot camp tribe where it's just family. Like, if you guys are fed up with doing virtual learning and CEs, like, just join us. And if you can't make it because you just had a baby, like Dr. Katie, or, join us virtually. It's cool. But if you're ready to step up your clinical skills, to build the practice of your dreams, or even if you're an associate and you just need to elevate your spot in practice, like even with my associate, like, you guys, it's amazing to have additional skills to help out. I love that my associate's a DAC because any weird radiology stuff, he takes it. But if you are not at the Pediatric Plus Bootcamp, you're missing a huge, how many women do you see? How many kids are we seeing? And how many people can you help by just elevating your clinical skills? There is a wealth of knowledge. I was just looking at the schedule yesterday too, because I was sending it to my CA. Like, if you really want to learn and really hone in both your clinical skills, your patient encounter skills, your skills as clinically, but also from an employee or employer standpoint, you need to be there.
Yeah. It's really, we're kicking it off actually with human trafficking IQ. Dr. Danielle Monroe is taking us on a 2-hour journey, an up close and personal journey on human trafficking. It's not someone else's issue. It's our issue. If you think it's not happening in your town, like, oh, that couldn't happen in my town, like, you are sorely mistaken. And we could be the ones that because we have an awareness now that we can really change someone's life. I was just watching, I think it was like an Instagram or something of this young girl who had been trafficked for 3 years, and it was her coming home. And I just can't even imagine. So we're starting with that, right into pregnancy with Dr. K, hands on, so we can learn how do we do this? Like, pregnancy care is more than Webster technique. Yes. Like, I just want to go on record to say that. And one of the things, if you've never been to one of my events, it's not the speakers that you see on every stage. It's the ones who are in the trenches, and for good reason. Many are relatively new in practice. And the thing I love about that is they're doing it really great. Like Dr. Jesse, the proof is in the pudding. I paid off my student loans in 2020 and my business loan in 2019 after opening in 2018. Like, how many others do you know who are doing that? Dr. Sarah, unbelievable leadership skills. I'll be diving into how do we really grow our business without blowing up our life?
Absolutely. Which is so important, because how many times do we become like a slave to our practice?
Yeah. And
then you hate it. Then you hate it. You've worked your butt off to build this dream of yours, and then you hate it in practice because you're so overworked, underpaid, or you're not paying yourself appropriately. Like, these events that you host are so much more than just like Pediatric Plus Bootcamp, pediatrics, pregnancy, all of that is great, but you're getting so much more by coming. So much more.
And I just want to share with all of you, like, you can be a stand for the and. You can have a great practice and an amazing personal life. You don't have to make the choice, even though we've kind of been led to believe you have to do one or the other, and that's just not true. And it's not, I have to be a really good clinician or have a successful practice and earn a lot of money. No, like they marry together. So I'll be teaching you about that, and we're gonna really look at money as well. This topic of, we all want more of it, but it's like the taboo subject. So we're gonna roll up our sleeves and look at money, and put us all in flow with having an abundance. And what to do with that abundance. So Jessie, thanks so much for joining me. It was really great to see you.
Thank you. And I'm so excited, and thank you for having me again. I had a blast last year, and I am so much looking forward to being back again this year, not only to be physically present, but also to be teaching you guys about, improving your clinical skills. And you host incredible and amazing events, and you always go above and beyond. And so I'm so honored to have gotten to know you and to be able to see you again, because I'm dying to see you. And, meet everybody else and engage with all of my friends. And
Yeah, it's going to be
Ready.
totally fun. And we start Wednesday night. There's a mixer at the Boot Camp Lake House. So if you're a doc and at some point you'd like to have an associate, or you'd like to make an impact on our profession in the future by bringing in preceptors, then you can meet them. If you're a student and you'd like to meet docs, hey, there's Danielle. You'd like to meet docs potentially to go into Dr. Jesse's, or like really and truly, I can tell you that if you go into a boot camper's office, you're going to be mentored. It's not going to be like, hey, you're finally here, like I'm out of here now. You'll be mentored. Like we all have in our hearts that we want to pass along the torch, and we want our legacies to continue, and to make a positive impact in this world. And so that's Wednesday night. That's free. You do have to register, so make sure you go to this link. And then we kick off on Thursday. Registration starts at 11. We are at the Gilardi Center on campus, and we'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Like Chelsea said, it's a really inexpensive way to get a ton of CEs and start your year off like check. So just able to accomplish so many things at the Pediatric Plus Boot Camp 2022. I will see you all. Jesse, I love you. I'm proud of you. I appreciate you. Rebecca May, you need to register for Wednesday. I love Danielle. Like, hey, get it done. And that's Danielle, who is also one of the speakers at the Peds Plus Boot Camp. So God bless you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.